Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a Cornerstone Conversation from the American Cornerstone Institute. I'm Evelyn Lim, the Director of Policy and Research, and I'm so pleased to have with us today Dr. Ben Carson, our founder and chairman, and Robin John. Robin is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Eventide. He is responsible for the overall leadership of the organization, and under his leadership, the firm has grown into a leader within values-based investing. Prior to Eventide, Mr. John held leadership roles for Bank of New York Mellon. He's also served as a business consultant for Grant Thornton. He has a degree in economics from Tufts University. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. And thank you, Dr. Ben Carson.
Well, we are so delighted that you're here with us today. You know, America is a place that is unique in the world. People came here from all over the world because it was a place where you had freedom and you could allow your intellect to take you wherever you wanted to go, intellect and hard work. But one of the things that's necessary for people to be able to create in this country is capital. And that's where investments come in. And we have a thriving investment environment. But one of the things that sometimes keeps people from investing is they feel that the entities through which they are investing are not working in their interest or in the interest of society at large, and they become suspicious and they say, well, no, I don't want to invest there. And one of the things I love about Eventide is that they're a bunch of young people who actually seem to have their head on straight and actually recognize what the purpose of moral investing is, and that it is actually okay for people to make money, but not on the backs of other people. And there are ways that that can be done. And if you are specifically looking for those ways to do things, it makes a huge difference. And it's not something that people generally get to hear about. So we would be very interested in how you came upon this ideal in the first place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ben Carson. So by the way, I wanted to tell you something. Last time we spoke, I told you about my daughter, who's a huge fan. She's 10 years old and reads your books. So she gave me 2 books yesterday. She said, Daddy, you have to read before you talk to Dr. Ben Carson today. And she told me that I have something in common with you. And I said, what is that? She said, well, you were kept back in the 4th grade and Dr. Ben Carson was kept back in the 5th grade. So it seems like we both had 2 strict parents. Yours was your mother and mine was my father. So I got a kick out of that. Yeah, so to answer your question, yeah, it's incredible. I think the opportunity that investors have to align their investments, their capital, with their values. And often what we find is that investing has been kind of divorced from its original purpose. And most of us think about investing as just a mechanism for making profit. But really what we do when we invest is we are providing capital to real businesses. And these businesses are either creating value in the world or the businesses are extracting value. Some businesses may do a little bit of both. And so, especially as people of faith, we have to be asking ourselves, what are the types of businesses we want to partner with and advance in the world? What are the causes? What are the how can we bring about human flourishing through business? And our tagline is investing that makes the world rejoice. And I don't know if you would know where that tagline comes from. Do you have any idea?
Well, I suspect it comes from the New Testament.
It actually comes from Proverbs. So there are verses in the Proverbs. One says, when the righteous prosper,
the people rejoice.
The city rejoices, right? And when the wicked prosper, the people
mourn.
groan. Yeah. And another verse says, when the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. And when the wicked are defeated, there are shouts of joy.
Right.
Why is that? Because when the righteous prosper by taking care of the people in the city, whereas the wicked prosper often through exploitation. And within the marketplace, there are so many examples of exploitation. I was listening to one of your recent podcasts where you were talking about abortion. And I think you mentioned something like 60 million abortions have happened in this country already. As people of faith, should we be partnering with that and profiting with that? Often we vote based on our values, but we don't actually invest based on our values. And take something like tobacco. 100 million people have died from tobacco use over the last 100 years. Over the next 100 years, it's expected that 1 billion people will die from tobacco use. In countries like Papua New Guinea, 40% of girls and 65% of boys, ages 13 to 15, are addicted to cigarettes. And American companies, these are all publicly traded companies in America, often the top holdings in the largest mutual funds in America, are profiting, and American shareholders, so I'm not blaming anyone, we do it unknowingly. I think what happens is, like I said, I think investing has become divorced of its original purpose. So if you talk to most people, they'll say, yeah, I'm in the stock market. Yeah, I have a 401k plan at so-and-so company. But where is that 401k plan investing? In some mutual funds. Where is a mutual fund investing? In real companies. And often people don't know which real companies they're profiting from and partnering with. And that's what we're trying to support and bring some awareness to. And we're trying to create a movement where values-based people would align their values and their investments.
Well, that's similar to, as you may remember some years ago, a lot of investors got together and said, we're going to boycott South Africa because of apartheid.
Yes.
And it actually turned out to be fairly effective. I like to look at it in a more positive aspect and saying, not so much you're going to boycott this one as we're going to support this one that is doing good things.
Yeah, actually, in Romans chapter 12, it says, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, right? So you have to do both. You are one of the most famous doctors in the world. The Hippocratic Oath is not just do no harm, it's first do no harm, right? So we can't stop at just avoiding evil, but we should be seeking to find the companies that are actually creating human flourishing and promoting the global common good.
Mm-hmm. Now, how is this received on Wall Street?
Yeah, so we started Eventide in 2008. The first 4 or 5 years was very difficult, partly because on Wall Street, people are looking for a track record. Once we established a track record and people started seeing how we were doing, it became much easier. You have to lead with excellence in order for people to actually want to hear what your values and philosophy is, right? So now there's definitely, I think, a turn in the marketplace, both within the Christian and the non-Christian world. I've seen it, especially over the last 3 to 4 years. There's been a rise in terms of values-based investing, socially responsible investing, ESG investing, impact investing. Over the last 3 to 4 years, I've definitely seen more tailwinds, where in the past I was definitely feeling more headwinds.
Well, I guess one of the blaring questions would be, how do you separate out good moral investing from ESG?
Yeah. So for people of faith, we have to look at the Bible, right? So the greatest commandment in the Bible, the Shema, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. the second greatest commandment, Jesus said, is like the first, love your neighbor as yourself. Apostle Paul in Galatians says that the love your neighbor principle is the greatest commandment, is love your neighbor as yourself. And later in the Bible, we read that it is the royal law of Scripture to love your neighbor as yourself. So we have been thinking, okay, so if we're bringing that principle of loving neighbor from a biblical perspective, what does that mean? So we have values within the prospectus of our funds. It'll say things like, we value the right to life at all stages. We value freedom from addiction. We value family and community. We value environmental stewardship. We value fair dealings with all employees. So it's based on those values that we have both positive and negative screening. So we screen out things like abortion, pornography, tobacco, alcohol, violent video gaming. There's a whole list of things that we screen out. But then once we screen those things out, from the remaining universe, we are seeking to find the companies that we believe are creating the most compelling value for society within their given industries. So for us, it's not just about, one of my colleagues said, it's investing that makes the world rejoice. I forgot how he said it, but it's not just investing that destined to make the world despair, or something like that, right? So we do want to partner with the companies that are truly helping the world.
I guess that makes it complex when you're talking about entertainment companies, because even standards like Disney, which used to be like the gold standard of family entertainment, now have introduced some elements that are questionable.
Yes.
And how do you look at situations like that? Because the Lord said that our job is to love our neighbors. His job is to judge. So how do we come to the right solution there, in your opinion?
So the large cap space is much more difficult. And from the Russell 1000, 700 companies get screened out through our process. And so our investment team from the Russell 1000 only can invest in the remaining 300, just from a values perspective. So the small cap space is much easier, because small cap companies generally have much more focused products. They're not giving and donating to Planned Parenthood the way that the large cap companies are. You're right, large companies like the one you mentioned are involved with so much. And for that reason, we cannot invest in a lot of those companies. We don't invest in Disney for that reason. And then in terms of judging, I totally agree with you. The Bible says that. I mentioned Romans 12 earlier. Even in Romans 12, it mentions that. And but at the end of the day, the Bible also has principles about ill-gotten gain and well-gotten gain. So Proverbs 1, for example, says, "My son, if sinful men entice you, if they say, 'Come along with us,'" and it goes on to say, "Do not share in their ill-gotten gain. Do not share in a purse that contains ill-gotten gain." And mutual fund is a purse that many people are participating in together. So I think when it comes to our profit, and when it comes to what we're advocating, we do want to make sure that we're not hurting people, that we're constantly creating blessing in the world. And there are so many examples of this in the Bible. King David, when he's in the cave of Adullam, this is when he's much older, and it's towards the end of his life. We read how he is sitting in the cave, and he says, "Oh, I'm so thirsty. I wish I could get water from this well in Bethlehem." So there's a specific well that he likes to drink the water from. And the Bible says that his mighty men run and get the water and bring it back to him. but they had to go through the Philistine army to get there, right? So when David sees the water, he pours it in front of his men. He says, I cannot drink this water. You guys put your life at risk for me. He said, I cannot drink the blood of my men. I can't imagine his men would have actually given him blood to drink. But David sees that they have taken on too much risk. So when we think about issues in the world, like what's happening in Western China with the Uyghur people, or when we think about child labor issues around the world, as people of faith, we do want to make sure that that we're loving our neighbors through what we promote in the world.
Yeah, well, that brings up one of the areas that is perhaps most difficult right now, is that child sex trafficking. It is rampant, and the most vigorous consumer is the United States of America, which means that obviously there's some soul searching and some heart searching that needs to be done here. Do you feel that an investment firm has a responsibility to weigh in on those kinds of situations?
Very much, in multiple ways. And again, the primary way that an investment firm can have that impact is by allocating capital away from that and into things that are helping children, not hurting them. So I will tell you, at Eventide, we don't invest in most hotels for that reason, because of the pornography that hotel chains are profiting from. And even airlines have this issue, not just with alcohol, but with entertainment inside of the airlines industry. So we are very careful to not just look at what the company's primary product is, but to look at all the ways that they're profiting and what they're promoting in the world through their business and product, but also through their philanthropy as well. So yeah, it's a big issue in the world today.
Well, I expect that there are probably a lot of people who haven't heard about organizations like yours who would be incredibly interested. How do we get that word out?
That's a good question. That's something that we wrestle with every day. So there are other organizations. It's not just Eventide.
Right.
So I would encourage the listeners to check out a group called Kingdom Advisors. Kingdom Advisors is a group of Christian financial advisors that really care deeply about generosity, stewardship, contentment, investing based on biblical principles. These are all topics, and their annual conferences draw about 2,000 financial advisors per year, and their membership is even larger than that. So for Christians that are starting to kind of wake up to this idea, I would encourage them to connect with a Kingdom advisor, financial advisor, within their community somewhere. And then you could also check out websites like Christian Investment Forum and Faith Driven Investor. So there are different organizations that are trying to bring education. Eventide is launching a Center for Faith and Investing. And we're going to be interviewing some of the leading biblical thinkers about various topics, whether it's life, whether it's creation and environment. And there's going to be various topics that's going to be covered by the Center for Faith and Investing.
Wonderful. I'm encouraged, as I said before, when I see young people like yourself who actually have some morals and values. When we look around, it's easy to get discouraged, and that's one of the reasons that I go around. I do a lot of talking because I want people to know they're not alone. So it's easy for people to think, "Oh, poor me," like Jeremiah, I'm the only one here, nobody else is. When in fact there are a lot of people. We just need to find a way to synergize those efforts.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's the world is a scary place, and just every day, just the news tend to be negative, and I think everyone needs encouragement, and I think people in business need encouragement, and people that are investors need encouragement, and I can imagine just given the life you lived over the last couple of years, I can imagine just all the stress and all the negativity that you have to deal with every day. So
Yeah, the thing that
yeah,
the
we
thing
all
that,
need community.
yeah, well, the thing that keeps me going is my faith, because I believe against the backdrop of eternity, anything that goes on here is just a flash in the pan. And you have to take the opportunity to do the best that you can do, to be a person who brings good rather than evil to the environment. And one of the things that I discovered when I was running for president is across this vast nation, from little towns in North Dakota to large cities, there are a lot of good people here. There are a lot of decent people who love their neighbor, but part of the problem is those people don't feel reinforced, so they keep quiet. And the ones who are not such good people have no intention of keeping quiet. They're very loud, boisterous. They tend to have the microphones. And it discourages the people who actually do think about others and not just themselves. And I just want to encourage people to use your sphere of influence, whatever that sphere happens to be, to advocate for good things and to recognize that we are not each other's enemies. Don't allow yourself to be manipulated into thinking that someone's your enemy because they may have a different philosophy about doing something. It's not true. And Jesus said it best. He said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." It was repeated, of course, by Abraham Lincoln with reference to the Civil War. But it was true then, and it's true now. And it's the thing that is the most likely to destroy this country. Yeah. And it's actually going to be we, the people, who have to make the decision. And part of what we have to do is recognize mechanisms and avenues whereby we can extend the good that is done. And that's why I am so delighted with the organization that you've created, the opportunities that you have presented for people. And I would emphasize that there's nothing wrong with having money. The Bible does not say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. But money can be used in very effective ways to ameliorate the lives of people, not only in this country, but throughout the world.
Yes. Yeah. Jesus said, "The world will know that you're my disciples by the love that you have for one another." And so we have to lead with love. Unfortunately, I think when Christians promote their values, sometimes it comes across to the world as being hateful or judgmental or unloving. So I think Christians just need to figure out ways to promote our values in ways that come across as being more loving. And you're absolutely right about all the small towns. I used to live in Tyler, Texas, and just for 6 months. And I grew up in Massachusetts as a young kid, and I live here now. There's definitely a sense that people in big cities have about people in small towns, that they are like more judgmental, more hateful, but it's the opposite is true actually. And the way that people treated me in those little towns was just, I would say, full of kindness, wanting to know where I came from and wanting to learn more about me. Whereas in a big city, I think people tend to be just more angry. And so there's definitely, I would say, like the small towns are misunderstood by the large cities.
Yes. Well, we got our work cut out for you, but we're delighted that you're in the fight, and I'm gonna throw it back to our host here.
Yeah,
Evelyn.
well, thank you so much. It was really fascinating to hear more about Eventide and your philosophy on investing. I think, when we hear a lot about social impact investing these days, but you don't necessarily hear about it from the biblical perspective. And so that was really great to hear about all the things that you are doing. And I think as an individual, a lot of us are told we should, show our social responsibility in the products we buy. And now we know we can do that in our investment as well. So I want to thank you both for joining us for our Cornerstone conversation. If you like to hear more about this, you can go to our website at americancornerstone.org or sign up for our newsletter, where you will hear about all our upcoming events and hear more from Dr. Carson. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.